Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Coach Bru podcast, where we turn potential into performance. I want to remind everyone this podcast is brought to you by my apparel brand, Chin Up, Chest Out. It is more than just a catchy slogan. It is a mindset, it is a way of life. Keep chin up, chest out, keep moving forward. You can head on over to chinupchestout.com. And if you're one of the first 5 people listening to this episode who use the promo code podcast, you'll get yourself a 20% discount plus free shipping. So that concludes all of our extensive sponsorship ad reads for this episode of the pod. I have a special guest joining me. His name is Eric Reyes. Eric is, he's like a younger, smarter, better looking brother from another mother of mine. And the reason I say that is Eric hosts something called the Hey Coach podcast. You can check it out at Hey Coach Reyes, REYES.com, or just go to Hey Coach Podcast, wherever podcasts are sold for free, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, which just got bought out by some other company, Spotify, and everywhere else. So Eric is, and the reason I say he's my brother from another mother is he is a coach who shares an affinity for the business world. He's an entrepreneur, and he talks about both, the intersection of sport and business in his podcast and in his life's work. So I'll tell you how he describes his podcast, because it's basically what we're going to talk about tonight. The Hey Coach podcast is where we dive into business concepts from coaching and the athletic sidelines. And that's essentially what we're going to break down with Eric tonight. Right now, Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Coach Bru. Hold on, I'm trying to put down my podcast, my podcast stuff, so I can get the free gear.
There you go. Awesome. You are not allowed to take that promo code. One of my beloved listeners will give you your own special one. How about that?
That's awesome. Okay.
All right. So I've got a bunch of questions for you. We're going to do something a little different this episode. We're going to do a little 2-minute drill where I just ask you random, bizarre questions.
Awesome.
But let's kind of go back a little bit. I know you've had a business career. I know that you are a New Yorker.
Yes,
so
yes.
You pronounce coffee and chocolate a little different than everybody listening to this. But tell us a little bit about yourself. You went to college on Staten Island. Did you meet, were you in the mafia? Did you meet any of the mafia dons who patrol the island? Were you in the garbage industry?
Yes. I know where Jimmy Hoffa is.
Okay, cool. Is he definitely buried under the Meadowlands, or is he really at like some other undisclosed location?
I really can't say. I can't. If I tell you, then you'll be gone.
Perfect.
Well, I was born a genius in Geneva, Switzerland, and no, really. I grew up in Manhattan. I grew up in the projects of Manhattan, and I love sports. Always loved sports. And I ended up going to 3 colleges and ended up at the College of Staten Island.
What were the first 2?
The first one was Manhattan College.
Okay.
The Jaspers. And then I
Riverdale.
went to, yes. And then
Fun fact, the 7th inning stretch was invented by Brother Jasper at Manhattan College. The 7th inning stretch as we know it in professional baseball. Fun fact.
Wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah, so if any of you are ever on Jeopardy, you're welcome.
Then I went to Stony Brook University.
Gotcha.
And then I went to the College of Staten Island, where I got my economics degree.
So, you were an athletic kid, very interested in sports all your life. And at the same time, you have this entrepreneurial business mind, econ major. So post-college, what did you decide to pursue? Like, how did you kind of address those two hungers, so to speak?
Well, I ended up on the commodity exchange. My brother was a broker and he traded coffee, cocoa, and sugar. And in that business, you can only get in by who you know.
Yep.
So I got in. I worked for a company that's not around anymore, Refco, and I started from the bottom as a runner. And I moved up, moved to different companies, a couple of different small companies, and I ended up trading copper futures with this company, William J. O'Reilly, and that's where I learned a bit of leadership because those guys did the right things. Never asked for a raise, never asked for a promotion, but they gave me money and they promoted me.
You were with them almost what, 20 years?
Yes, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
To the point where they made me a partner and then they put me in the ring and made me a trader. So I learned from them. And at the same time, I was actually coaching my kids in, at the time, Pop Warner,
Yep.
all the way up. And I ended up coaching at Hendrick Hudson High School. I was the JV head coach. And
Shout out to all the fine folks at Hen Hut.
there you go. There you go. And I also was the receiver coach for the varsity team.
Okay. So, like, I can't think of a more, well, first of all, like in the business that you're working in, there's a scoreboard and there's a clock every day. And that's, you're keeping score. There's nothing qualitative about it. There's nothing subjective about it. It's you either produce or you don't. You're either scoring points or you're not. How how So I guess my question is, that's a high stress, high fast paced, frenetic environment. And to go from that to the football field, coaching must have been like going to a library
Yes. Yes.
or
A matter.
like a yoga retreat by comparison. And what I like, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but um, what a slower paced, relaxed environment it must have been to be on a high school football field compared to your workplace. No.
Yes. Yes. It was a big difference. I mean, we're talking about if you ever saw the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy,
Mortimer, we're back.
it's just like that. I was in the ring
Yep.
screaming and yelling, waving my hands, and then I'd leave, get on the train, go home, change my clothes, and I'd be right on the football field.
What's wild
And
about that is that's the opposite of just about everyone's experience. Like the practice field, the game field is high energy environment. It's probably wild compared to most workplaces. And your experience is the exact opposite. What was that like?
I'll tell you, I let everything go at work. When I came to the field,
Not easy to do.
I didn't scream and yell. A matter of fact, I was the opposite. I very rarely screamed and yelled at the players. I was one of those coaches that if I told you, oh, you really disappointed me, that was harder on them that if I screamed at them and yelled
Yep.
at them because they let me down. That was their feel. And that was the culture that I brought to the field. I didn't want that screaming and yelling. I did it all day
Exactly.
at work.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it to them. So it was almost like a stress reliever to be actually on the field.
That is, I always felt that way about sports and coaching. Like the world, honestly, and it still doesn't to a certain extent. The world doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, Eric.
No,
But the
not
one
to me either.
place it makes perfect sense to me is on the practice field or on the game field.
Yes.
Perfect sense. I don't even coach anymore, and I still feel that way, you know, and especially because things are just so upside down right now in our world. But how do you see some of these parallels between sport and business play out on a day-to-day basis with just the people you work with, whether it's on the field or off, you know?
Well, it goes back to the basics. And when you're coaching, you're you coach the basics. And as long as the fundamentals are placed, everything else just adds to it. I mean, when we talk about trick plays, if you talk about trick plays
Yeah.
and the trick play only works if the fundamentals are put in.
Hmm.
And I think that's what happens also in business, where people want to try. I want to move to this level. I heard about this new method of tracking sales. I heard of
Everybody's
this
looking
new
for a
this.
magic bullet, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
go back to what made you successful. Let's go back to the basics and what
Yep.
customers want from you. And if you just go back to those basics, everything else will fall in place.
Yeah, I don't remember who said it. Yeah, I'm sure a million people have taken credit for it, but like before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Exactly.
not. I wish I could remember who said that. I'll try and Google it while we're talking, but that really is it's a very profound quote, but it also is just fundamentals, 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 and don't deviate from that. When you deviate from that, no matter how successful you've been, that's where you get in trouble.
Right. Right. And if you look at on football field, the team that's always having penalties ends up losing.
Yep.
The false starts, the wrong routes, the little things like that. Those those things should not happen. If if you know the cadence and you're paying attention, those things should be done at a minimal amount of time. And it's because those things aren't practiced enough.
And, and what's mind-boggling to me too is like a lack of focus and concentration. Is when you see the guard on the offensive line go off sides. What
Right.
you're a nanometer away from the person snapping the ball, holding the ball. All you have to do is look at the ball and don't move until the ball moves. It's almost inexcusable, but that's the world we live in today, is where people aren't focused. They're looking for the magic bullet, and we tend to deviate from fundamentals. And that's in business. It's in every business gone wrong, and that is in every unsuccessful team. We've deviated from fundamentals,
Right.
and I call me old school, I guess. But I think that's something people misunderstand about me. Is like I really am old school, and I'm a firm believer in fundamentals before you get sophisticated with anything. What is something most people or something people seem to misunderstand about you?
About me. I would say that since I'm not this outgoing, loud person, that I lack the passion.
Okay.
And I am very passionate when I'm on the field, whatever I'm doing, I have 100% passion in doing it, because if not, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yep.
So if I am talking to a business owner and I'm just listening to him and he goes, "Well, you're not giving me anything." Well, I'm listening. I'm
Yeah.
I want to know everything that's going wrong with you, and then I can fix it. So me being quiet and letting you talk doesn't mean I don't care about you. Matter of fact, it's the opposite. I want you to talk to me. I want you to give me everything that you can so that I can fix it.
Yeah, passion can show up in a lot of different ways.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
have to be, rah rah over the top enthusiasm. What you know, what do you think is the most your unique skill that you've taken from, working on the trading floor and you're able to bring over to athletics or, the business world outside of Wall Street?
Well, it's something that when you were on my podcast, we actually touched on it.
Shout out, Hey Coach podcast.
The Hey Coach, yes. When I was on the Coach Bru podcast. Um, excuse me, when I was on my
Shout
podcast.
out, Coach Bru podcast.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
We were talking about being observant
Yep.
and keeping your eyes open to not a new idea, but seeing what's around you. On the trading floor, while everybody's screaming and yelling, if I didn't have anything to trade at the prices that were being traded, I'm watching what other people are buying and selling
Yep.
and noticing what that trend is. Okay, this person is continually buying at a certain time or at a certain price. It would give me an upper hand because I'm watching and I'm seeing what's being traded and the volumes that are being traded. On the football field, it was the same thing. Watching what's this coach's tendencies. People talk about watching film.
Were you on the sidelines or you up on the booth in game day?
I was on the sideline.
Okay.
I was on the sideline.
So it's a little bit more like being on the trading floor.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you're at ground level. You don't have that 30,000 foot bird's eye view. Yeah.
Right. But what I would do is when the offense would come off the field, I would grab the lineman and I would ask them, what are you seeing?
Yeah.
What do you see? Are you handling your man? And they knew that if they weren't handling their man, I wasn't going to yell at them. I just needed to know what I can do to help them. So if they were getting rushed, from, like you were saying, from the sideline, you can't see everything that's happening on the field. When you see the film, which is too late.
Yep.
That's when you see it. So they knew, like, hey, coach, this guy's really beating me up. Okay, good. All right. Thanks. I'll get somebody over there. We'll help you out on that side of the field.
Yeah.
So I not only wanted to be the observer, but I wanted everyone else on the field to observe what's happening and to talk to each other. I mean, the person who's on one sideline, that receiver, can't see what the other receiver is seeing.
Yeah.
So if there's a motion or there's something that's going on, there needs to be a good communication. And then when they get off the field, I want to know what's going on also.
So
And
are there times when you're seeing something like on the trading floor that you think you're seeing one thing, but something else is actually taking place?
yeah, it definitely does happen.
Okay.
But like anything else, if I'm observing something, I can act on that. Now, if it doesn't work, okay, it doesn't work. But most of the time, not everybody is trying to fool you.
Yeah. So take us into that world. Like, what's that like? Because we've all seen, whether it's in a movie, on TV, news footage, or maybe, people have been there, but they haven't been like boots on the ground doing what you did for so many years. What is that like?
Well,
Like, is it as chaotic as it looks? It looks like a mosh pit to
no,
me.
it definitely is. Unfortunately, it's no longer like that. Everything has gotten electronic trading, and the actual trading floor is gone now.
Didn't know that.
Yes, a matter of fact, that's when my transition to becoming an entrepreneur and doing my own business. that's when it started to evolve, when that business started to die away.
So I'm feeling like I feel like I just crawled out from under a rock. What year did all that happen?
It started,
Please say
it
last year. Please
started,
say last year. Please say last year.
God, no, it
Please don't say a decade
started
ago.
probably near the end of the 90s
Oh,
is when it started. And
wow.
then it just rapidly progressed.
Aging
And
myself here. Yeah.
yeah. And then what happened was I used to trade 95% of my customers' business. And I used to trade my own money about 5%.
Okay.
At the end, when I was leaving the floor, I was trading probably 98% of my own money and 2% customer business. It just ended up that customers could trade on their own and they didn't need our expertise, because to them, they can just trade on their own. But what they were missing was the knowledge that we had
So
from trading.
gotcha. So this my obliviousness to all of this in your industry leads me down a rabbit hole that's kind of topical and current eventish. Um, this whole GameStop Robinhood app
Right.
situation. Um, what do you make of this? You know, the guy with that owns the Robinhood, the CEO of the Robinhood app, I guess froze the ability to people to sell um,
Right.
GameStop stock, and I think AMC and something else. And you hear some pundits and people saying like basically that's criminal and he should go to jail. He should be locked up for that. What with your kind of inside information and having intimate knowledge of that whole world, give us kind of the set us straight on this. Like what's the reality versus the optics of it?
Well, the reality is,
It's a total tangent, I
yeah, that's
realize.
okay. That's okay. The reality of it is what the traders are doing is similar to what they used to call a pump and dump,
Yep.
which is like a bunch of guys get a cheap stock and they run it up. They talk to everybody, they run it up, and then, tag, you're it, I'm getting out. And then, last man loses, so that's kind of what they were doing to,
Who's they?
well, the traders who were on, I forgot the name of the app that,
Reddit
yes,
or
Reddit,
Robinhood?
Reddit. Well, they were
Okay.
trading from on Robinhood.
Yeah.
Now what Robinhood did, I understand what they did. I don't like why. I understand why they did it. I don't understand. I don't like the way they did it, which
Well,
is, which is, they need to have a certain amount of money to, to cash people out. So like if I
yeah.
buy it, if I buy it at $5 and it goes up to $300 and I, tomorrow I said, okay, I like to get my money, you have to have money. So now if everybody's running it up, Robinhood has to have
So they didn't have like the
money.
reserves to cash
Right.
people out.
Right. So they
Gotcha.
need, right. So there's regulations on that, but to just stop people and not have that in any situation where letting people know ahead of time that we're allowed to do this
Yeah.
and just do it. It's almost like tomorrow, you wake up in the morning and they said, oh, we just raised interest, your interest on all your on, on your house loan and everything to
Yeah.
25%. And you're like, whoa, what do you mean? It's like, oh yeah, we just we kind of just voted on it last
Yeah.
night.
Because the suspicion was like they were in cahoots with, a brokerage firm and actually selling their customers' data or getting some kind of kickback from
Right.
some other trading company. And I don't know whether that's accurate or not, but
See,
that was the
I
word
don't
on the
either.
street. Yeah.
Right. I don't either. But these hedge funds,
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Right. Technically, if you think about it, they do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're one person, but they have money behind them of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people.
Yep.
So what's the difference of a hedge fund taking their billions of dollars and killing a company because they feel like it's not valuable,
And because they can.
and
Yeah.
they can,
Yeah.
and 10,000 people with thousands of dollars getting together and saying, no, we think
Yep.
we like the market. So which is what's right? Just because a hedge fund is a hedge fund, is that okay?
And that's the parallel with sports that I kind of wanted to get to, is like, now all of a sudden it isn't just like, the big organizations that have access to data and, all these different analytics in sports. It's become very open source, and with the internet, like, everyone can do that stuff.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Everybody
really
can do it.
democratized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect example. When I was on the trading floor, one day I lost close to $200,000.
No pressure.
It was a disaster.
Yeah.
And I watched the market go up, and there was no reason for the market to be going up. But someone decided, they were a fund. They decided they were going to buy everything that was out there and they're going to run the market up. So what they did was they kept running up and they squeezed everybody out.
Wow.
Now no one cared that I lost money and a bunch of traders lost money. The hedge fund
Yeah.
was buying. So it seems like it's only bad when the hedge fund loses money.
Yeah. Like, there's two different sets of rules, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm an individual, they're a hedge fund, and since they have the money and the backing and they're trading volumes, they're allowed to do whatever they want.
Yep. So is that your worst memory from doing that?
Yes. Yeah.
What's your best?
My best memory was I bought copper. I was writing the trade down. And while I was writing the trade down, by the time I picked up my head, I was probably up about 10 grand. That quick.
Wow.
And the market kept going up. And I probably made about 30 grand in about a 15-minute period.
That's not bad, man.
No, it does. It rarely happens,
That's
but
I don't know, man. Okay,
wow.
let me just tell you all the times I made 30 grand in 15 minutes doing what I do. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
It happened once. Okay. It's not like I've been down there 30 years. It happened once.
$1 grand a year.
Yeah.
You want to look at it that way.
Exactly. Exactly. But that was it. That was my high point.
So you get all these highs and lows on a daily basis with the market, I imagine. Are the highs as high and the lows as low coaching as they are, on the trading, or as they were on the trading floor? What's that like?
Yeah. As a coach, and when you lose, that just eats up at you.
Yeah.
And not in the point of like, if one person did something wrong and we lost the game,
Mm-hmm.
you start to mentally go through every aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Could I have done something more? Could I have ran a different play? But
And that'll wake you up at night years later thinking about a game. That's what people don't realize. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I would come home, and if I lost the game, my wife would look in my face and she knew, okay, let me just leave him alone for for about an hour, and I'd go downstairs and I start hashing out the whole entire game over and over and over again. And it's one of those things where I've always said, I'm not going to bring it home when I was talking about
Yep.
work. But when you're coaching, it's hard not to bring it home because eventually you have to start planning your next game, and you have to plan on your practices for the next day. And so you need to bring it home. But when you win, it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
But it dies very quickly. The loss stays with you so much longer.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's what people don't understand is like really competitive coaches hate losing more than they love winning
Yes.
for that reason.
Yeah.
I
It
think
dies.
that's something people don't get about, like, we're weird like that. People don't get that about us as a species, so
No,
to speak.
it's true. No,
Yeah.
it's true. It's true. That win is great, and you're driving home, it's awesome. And when you get home, honey, we won. And that's about it.
So let's play a little game, which I know you like to play on your podcast. And being an O-line coach, right?
Right.
There are 4 things that you coach. And we're going to take those 4 things and we're going to have you apply them to business. Like, you're going to take it from the locker room to the boardroom, so to speak, which just happens to be the subtitle of my first book, The Coach Approach: Success Strategies from the Locker Room to the Boardroom. But those 4 things are alignment, stance, responsibility, and technique. So I'm going to drop you into, I guess, how about an organization? Can we drop you into an organization? And I'll ask you, explain alignment, explain each of these things.
Okay. All right.
And I'm just going to pick a random organization, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
Okay. You know how Rice-A-Roni is the San Francisco treat?
Yes.
All right, what would be the Staten Island treat?
Oh, Staten Island treat would probably be pizza, Zeppelis. Not sure if you know what Zeppelis are.
It's like fried dough, right?
It's fried dough with a lot of like powdered sugar on it.
Okay. So like pizza's common. Let's take Zeppelis, which, unless you're a New Yorker, you might not know what they are. So you are going to be working with a Zeppeli company, like a manufacturer who then sells to, retail. They make the Zeppelis. It's a food company that makes the Zeppelis. So you're probably competing against Nestle and all, big food, big, all the big boys. But you're not, a massive brand like that, at least not yet. And you're selling to, Pathmark, Kroger's, Whole Foods, all the retailers. And you have a small store, what would you call it, like a manufacturer's outlet store, so to speak, in in your facility. What would be the organizational equivalent of alignment?
Okay. So alignment.
I'll explain alignment in football for people who don't know.
Okay.
And then we'll go to corporate.
Awesome. Okay. So alignment in football is where you are on the field compared to everyone else on your team on the field. So let's say on the offensive line, normally the center comes up first. He sets himself up, and then your guards come in. And some people want a 2 foot between the guard and the center. Some people want 1 foot, depending on what it is. That's the gap. That's called the alignment.
Yep.
Right. So that gap, the alignment, then you have your receivers, how far are they, your running back. So that's your alignment, how you are amongst your team, your formation.
Okay, so let's take it from the locker room to the boardroom. Alignment.
Now, to the boardroom. how do you have the right personnel?
Yep.
Did you hire right? You want to be in alignment. You want your employees to be on the same path as your owner. You want your employees and your team members to be in alignment with the goals of the company and with like the company's culture. What do they
So
want? Do they want to
yeah,
be
shared goals and culture. I got you.
exactly? So, do you want to, we want to be the best Zeppeli manufacturer. We want them to be the best tasting Zeppelis.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. The
Forget
best
about it.
Zeppelis.
Yep.
And we want our customers to be satisfied with our product.
So you're aligning your people with ownership, your employees with ownership,
Right.
but you're also aligning the company with the market. Is
Right.
that what you're telling me?
Exactly. And their
Gotcha.
culture. Right.
Cool. All right. So that's alignment. How about stance?
Okay.
Again, locker room to boardroom.
So stance. How are you set up on the field? You always talk when you talk about
Individually,
stance,
right?
individually. When you talk
Right.
about stance, you set your base. Okay. Do you have a wide stance? If you have too wide of a stance, you can get knocked over. If you have too
Yep.
too thin of a stance, you can topple over.
Yep.
So you need enough of a base so that you have that first step advantage. So that's stance.
Gotcha. Let's take that to corporate America, into the boardroom, so to speak.
Okay. So we touched on it a little with alignment. Stance, you need what does your company, what's its culture? What are their values? What do they stand for? So if you don't know what your company stands for and what they want to achieve, and it's not well defined, then how do you expect your employees and everyone else to go out there and sell the product? Now,
A number one complaint with just about every organization, people don't know the mission statement. They have no concept of what the core values are, or if they're even established core values.
exactly.
And it's
Now,
more often than not.
exactly. And again, you can have too wide of a core values. We want to be the best Zeppeli company with the best sugar, and we want the customer service, and we want them to receive it within 5 minutes of us cooking it. And well, that's just too much to handle. You're setting yourself up for failure. If you say we want to only have the best Zeppelis. Okay, well, what about your customers? Like, do you want them to get it on time?
Yeah.
Do you have a good customer service? So you need to find that base that's strong enough to support your company that you can build on.
Yeah. And let's take it back to the playing field now. Because I think the best stance, the best messaging around stance is probably what Pete Carroll has done both at USC and with Seattle Seahawks. Like their mission statement is just win forever. He's had that win forever mantra since he got to USC, took it with him to Seattle when he went to the NFL. But like, if you went to the equipment manager at USC and said, like, well, what's the mission statement here? Well, explain it to me. 2 words, win forever. And he would know exactly what that means and how that relates to his job. Talk to, the maintenance crew who are manicuring the field at the stadium. How does win forever relate to your job? there is that universal understanding of how the goal relates to their role. And, that's, I think, the best example of stance I've ever seen. And coincidentally, it's in the world of football, which is your wheelhouse.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And what I like that you said is it's not just the players.
Oh,
From the maintenance crew
yeah.
to and that's a huge key when you're talking about goals and values, is that the cleaning person and the cook, the chef in the cafeteria room, everyone has to be in on it.
And those people really are in the people who have these seemingly menial jobs, or what some people would view as the smallest roles, actually have the most freaking important roles in the company, because they're the director of first impressions.
Yes.
You pull on to the property that a business owns. Are there weeds growing in the front yard? Is or does it look like someone was literally on their hands and knees, edging where the grass meets the walkway or the driveway with a pair of nail clippers?
Right.
Like, how committed to excellence does that place look? You walk
Right.
in the building, is the floor so shiny you can see your reflection on it?
Right. Right. And
Is
that
it
comes
clean? Does it
and
smell good? That's, the grounds crew when you drive in, and when you walk in the building, that's the custodian. That's the housekeeping staff.
that's
You
it.
better treat them well, because if someone pulls in and has a bad first impression, good luck selling them anything. Or if they're already customers, good luck keeping them.
Right. And talking about the Zeppeli company, if
I'm
if
getting
you're
hungry now.
if your loading guy, if he's unloading flour
Yeah.
and he's not in on the culture and he's just throwing those bags and those things open and break on the dock because he doesn't care, you know, that's money in your pocket.
Yep.
So that dock guy has to be in, all in. As everybody says it in football and all the sports, you got to be all in.
It's true. And everybody says it because it's true.
Right.
Everything matters. All those little things add up. So
Exactly.
let's hit point number 3 on the Hey Coach 4-point scale. Responsibility. What's that look like on the field?
Well, on the field, it's probably the most important, I would say, because everyone has a job. Are you blocking? Are you running the ball? Are you passing the ball? Are you faking? If I'm a receiver on the left side and I'm not getting the ball's going to be thrown on the right side. I still have to run a pattern so that one player on defense is going to follow me. So if I just jog it off, well, he knows it's not coming to him.
Yeah, you got to sell. You better sell it.
You got to sell it. And because you don't want that guy to run across the field and make the tackle, because then they'll be like, well, why wasn't he following you? Oh, because I took the play off. So everybody has a job. The running back, when he fakes like getting the ball, it's so that he can get tackled. And, do you want to get hit? No, but you want to get tackled so they think you have the ball. If he came up and didn't even make believe that he had the ball, those linebackers will go toward where the ball's going to go. So everyone has a responsibility on the field.
And I think you just perfectly described it when you said taking plays off, because in corporate America, there are a ton of employees every day at companies taking plays off. The Gallup organization does a survey on employee engagement every year, and they've been doing this for at least the last 15 years. And they found 8 out of 10 employees are disengaged. 80% of your workforce is disengaged.
Right.
Now, the ironic thing of that, and then I'm going to let you answer, is HR departments have known about this for about 15 years, and that number has not improved.
Right.
It's
Right.
amazing to me.
It is.
Just
And
as a coach, if you knew that 8 out of your, let's just say it's 11, because it's 11 on a football field, 8 out of your 11 players are lining up, running the wrong direction with the ball to about to score on themselves, like that would never happen.
right.
But it happens every day in corporate America. Like I use the equivalent of like soccer, lacrosse, hockey. It's like 8 kids on your team throwing the ball in the wrong net, throwing it in their own net. That would never happen, but it happens every day in companies.
Yes. Yes. And
What's the
well,
go ahead.
just a side note, it goes to being engaged, having them engaged in being all in. And that comes from the top. Just a little side story. When I was we're going way back, way back, when I was in 5th grade, I had high reading level. I was always getting in trouble because we would read, they say, okay, read this chapter quietly. I would read the chapter and I'd be finished before everybody was done.
Yep.
And now I start talking to little Johnny on the side, and I'm talking here and I'm pulling the little girl's hair in front of me, and I would get in trouble. My teacher pulls me outside and I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. She took me to the storage room where all the textbooks are and got me a book 2 grades higher. And she said, when you're finished reading what we're reading, I'm going to give you something else to read. And I was thrilled.
Yep.
Thrilled because I wanted more. I finished reading and I had nothing to do. And she had me read something else. And that always stuck in my mind because
It's simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And too many times in business, you have people doing work that is simple and they finish, and most people want to be engaged during the day. They
Sure.
don't want to just sit there and be on the internet. They actually want to be engaged. So
yeah, I don't think people go on their morning commute saying, I'm really hoping I'm bored at work today, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So going to business, what's your responsibility? Let's go to the boss. Are you engaging your workers? Are you teaching them or bringing in the right tools so that,
Yeah.
hey, you know what, tomorrow, I shouldn't say tomorrow, but in 2 weeks, we're going to have somebody come in and they're going to teach us about this, or, hey,
It could be something as simple as like a safety meeting, having an
exactly,
outside voice come in for that. Yep.
exactly. Or, hey, Coach Bru, let's come in and let's talk about leadership, or not. Hey, John, I'm going to send you to Arizona to take these 2 courses, so that, because since you're doing so well, this will help you on the next level when you move up.
And when you talk about responsibility, so often, like accountability is viewed as like this punitive thing, as opposed to, like you just described, training is a reward, not a punishment.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that tends to be the exception. Again, tends to be the exception, not the rule.
Right. And now when you talk about in business, let's say going back to the Zeppeli company, that guy who's baking, who's mixing, if he's slow, if he's not engaged and he's doing his job slow, he's slowing the whole process down.
Yep. And if you
Now,
still don't know what a Zeppeli is, it's like fried dough you get at the food truck at the state fair, the county fair.
exactly.
And
It's
now you
awesome.
understand why I'm getting hungry. So
So,
I'm sorry, this guy's slowing everybody down.
right. So he's slowing everybody down. He's now, it's not just him. The guys who are packaging, the guys who are shipping, everything slows down. Let's say he does his job well. Anyone down that line, the sales guy, he's expecting X amount of Zeppelis to be done.
Yeah.
And he's already told the customer, you're going to get it X amount on this day. Now he's got to call the customer and say, hey, I told you you're getting it today, but tomorrow, I think you'll get it tomorrow or the next day. So everyone has to understand what their responsibility is.
And if that happens often enough, Eric, those guys all management's going to replace all those guys with robots.
Yes.
And then they'll sell the company to Amazon.
Exactly. So it's responsibility on deadlines. And it that goes back to also how you hire, because when you hire, you need to give them what their expectations are. Yep. This is what we expect from you. But it's not a one-way street either. You go say, oh, this is what we expect from you. And you know what? When we do this, this is how it's going to benefit you and it's going to benefit the whole company. Yeah. Too many times it's like crack the whip. I expect you to do this. And then they do it. And okay, now we're going to do twice as much. Okay, well, you're not helping. So it's got
to give. Yeah.
Something's got to give. And management has to always be responsible for getting the input and the output back and forth. It's got to be moving back and forth.
So we can't talk about that without talking about point 4, which is
technique.
And
technique.
That really speaks to what? Like the operations?
Yes. Operations, but now we're talking about football, right? Going back to football, technique. How are you going to block? Are you down blocking? Are you rush? On defense? Are you rushing? Are you doing the swim move? So that's in football. Everybody has a technique. Your receivers, they have to run that pattern, but they have their technique on how they break out of their pattern.
Yeah,
that's in football. In business, do you have standard operating procedures in place? If you do have standard operating procedures, and this is a big thing that businesses don't do, we have standard operating procedures. Okay. They've been instilled in the company since 1920. How many times do you go and look at your operating procedures and say, can we make this better?
Or why do you do it that way? Oh, because we've always done it that way.
Yes.
If that isn't the kiss of death, I don't know what is, right?
Exactly. Oh, we get these reports. Who reads the reports? I don't know. So why do you generate the reports? Well, we always generate the reports. Okay, but that's wasting time. How about we don't use that? Well, the old manager used to like the report. Okay, but he's no longer here. So you have to have standard operating procedures. You have to have meeting structures.
Yeah.
How many times do people go into meetings and they last hours upon hours?
And that is, if I had a wish for everyone, this is like if I could wave my magic wand on the world, or I'm the genie that pops out of the bottle. My wish for everyone is that they would spend a day following around an elite. It wouldn't even have to be an elite coach, but a football coach, college, professional, doesn't matter, but someone who their entire day is spent, perfecting their craft. And, I noticed I didn't say lacrosse, soccer, hockey, basketball, tennis, golf. I didn't say any of those. I said football. And I'm telling you, I coached lacrosse for many years before I started coaching college football. I was an assistant football coach up here at Maine Maritime Academy. And being an assistant football coach and just seeing how uh, football coaches approach the discipline that is being a professional coach, the coaching profession, is so markedly different than any other sport. The attention to detail, the leaving no stone unturned quality to which they approach their profession. My wish is that everyone in every walk of life who runs a business, is a leader within a business, manages a department, does anything, in any sort of leadership capacity, could spend a day job shadowing a coach. And I'll just never forget the first day, preseason camp, all the first coaching staff meeting. Very first thing we did, synchronize our watches as a
Right.
staff with the clock on the wall in the locker room, which was also synchronized with the clock on the wall in the offices. Like it starts with that
Right.
and that level of attention to detail, and it just trickles down to everything else you do. It is amazing, and that's part of the operations. That's part of the technique, and I think it also goes full circle back to number one: alignment.
Right.
Can't be on the same page if you're not literally synchronizing your watches.
Exactly. Exactly.
Something that simple.
And one of the things that incorporates like kind of the whole thing is communication. In every sport, if there's a lack of communication, nothing works. It doesn't matter if you have the basics in, it doesn't matter if you have um, the best players out there. If there's not that communication, a constant communication, it all breaks down.
And if you want to see how important that is, if you're a coach listening to this, try having a silent practice. Not even a whole practice, just like the first half an hour practice today. We're going to try and do everything we normally do, but you have to do it in complete silence. You wonder how important communication is? Try that.
Yeah,
Try that in your workplace. How successful are you going to be?
not
Yeah.
very.
Yeah. Exactly. So, Eric, I love that. It's alignment, stance, responsibility, and technique.
The
The
very basic.
Reyes, the Reyes Four, as I like to call them now. Um, I want to do a little thing, shifting gears a little bit. I want to do a little thing called the 2-minute drill.
Okay.
I've never done this before. You're the perfect person to start with. And if it goes horribly wrong, blame me. But
Okay.
we're going to put 2 minutes on the clock, and I'm just going to ask you random questions.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And here we go. What is in the trunk of your car right now, coach?
Other than my spare is my dog's bed, who
Okay.
goes everywhere with me.
Uh, what kind of dog?
He's an English pointer mix.
Perfect. Let's talk food, barbecue specifically. When it comes to barbecue, are you a dry rub fan or barbecue sauce guy?
Oh, I want sauce.
Okay.
The messier the better.
How many chickens would it take to kill an elephant, Eric?
I would say actually one. One. If he goes up into the snout, just choke him to death.
That's a great point. It's speaking of animals. If you're an animal, what animal would you be?
This is an easy one. An albino tiger.
Ooh, okay. Um, you are now officially a superhero. What is your superpower?
My superpower. Ooh, that's a good one. Um, Invisibility.
Okay.
Because I love to observe.
What's 30 seconds. What's the craziest dare you ever took?
Ooh, craziest dare. Okay, I drank a bottle of mezcal tequila.
All at once?
Yeah, pretty much. Didn't
And the
eat the
worm?
didn't
And the
eat the
worm?
worm. Did not eat the worm.
Okay. The most out of character thing you've ever done?
Out of character. I did some weird dance on a dare on the middle of a dance floor.
After drinking a bottle of tequila, perhaps?
Exactly.
Okay.
No,
What's a weird fact that you happen to know?
a weird fact. Ooh. Uh, pi is 3.1459. Oh, I used to know the whole thing. I used to know 8
Okay.
digits. That's close
Um,
enough.
all right. Last one. And this is simply because you are a New Yorker and you went to school in Staten Island. If you could commit any crime and get away with, and you worked on Wall Street, if you could commit any crime and get away with it, what crime would you commit?
I'd probably try to steal. It's got to be like 500 million, like do some bank heist so that this way, if I have to pay it back, most of the time you don't give the whole thing. You're like, oh, okay.
It's missing. Some of it's
Yeah,
missing.
something's
Yep.
missing, something's going on. So I would rob a bank.
Okay. And that concludes the 2-minute drill. It was just a little over 2 minutes.
That was good.
I think that stuff reveals a lot about somebody's personality, you know. The one question that you wish I would have asked you that I forgot to ask in this whole interview, Eric, what was it? Like, he should have asked me this and he dropped the ball. This is your opportunity to publicly shame me for negligence, so to speak.
Let's see what you should have asked. Where'd I get the alignment, stance, responsibility, and technique?
Okay, so where'd you
How
get that? I just assumed that you are a super bright, intelligent, articulate, insightful, self-aware human being who created that.
No, that came from a coach when my kids were 5 years old,
Oh, wow.
and he taught the linemen how to do their job. And he said, okay, first you align yourself. He goes, get your stance. What's your
Yep.
responsibility? Each guy, what's your responsibility? Okay, how are you going to do it?
That's cool.
And that from 5 years old, my son's 25 now. That's always stuck in my head.
And you had to remind me of those 4 points how many times?
About
At least 6 or 7.
Yes, yeah.
At least. So, like, are you smarter than a 5-year-old? No, I am not. I admit that. So, last question, and then we'll let people know where they can get in touch with you.
Awesome.
And I love that. I'll give you my answer to just kind of help, as a prompt. If your life were a movie, what would the title of it be? So for me, if my life were a movie, the title of it would be Tuxedo T-shirt. And the reason for that is, I'm kind of a guy who can move in just about any crowd, and I can be formal and I can be casual. I typically prefer to be casual. And there's the you remember in Talladega Nights where they're sitting at the dinner table and it's like Christmas dinner and they're like,
yes.
thank you, sweet baby Jesus.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't Will Ferrell, as John, what's his name?
Oh,
His buddy
yeah.
says I like to picture Jesus, like baby Jesus, like he's wearing a tuxedo T-shirt because he's like super. He's like he can be super serious, but he also likes to party. And like that always just stuck with me. Like, yeah, I think like if my life were a movie, it'd be Tuxedo T-shirt because I can be serious and I also like to have fun.
Right.
So if your life was a movie, what would it be, Coach? What would the title be?
I think Life is good.
Life is good, like the clothing brand.
Like the clothing brand.
Sweet.
Life is good.
Yeah.
And just
Why is
because,
that?
just because everybody always dwells on things that go wrong.
Yep.
But if you look at the whole picture, life is good.
Yeah.
You day to day, if you took your whole week and you had one bad day that week, okay, that's a bad day. It was 1 hour of your
Yep.
week. You know, you have to look at your overall picture. And you know what? Life's
People
good.
aren't doing that. That's super important takeaway message. I think a great way to end.
Yeah.
And like, so Eric, let's look at it this way. I know we're connected on social media. So let's use social media as an example. And I said this like since just before the election, like if you got rid of Facebook and Twitter, like get rid of social media, the country would probably heal itself in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because forget what you see on Twitter and what's trending and all that banter. It's not reality. It's like a funhouse mirror. You walk out your front door. Like I'll give you the example. My next door neighbor is a Democrat. I'm fairly conservative. I'm unaffiliated, but I'm fairly conservative. We get along great. He's one of my best friends, best neighbor I've ever had, nicest guy. He and his wife are like wonderful. We don't harbor any animosity because he's a member of one party and I have different beliefs. None whatsoever. Most of your neighbors are friendly.
Yeah.
Like the world is very different offline than it is online. And people look at what's online and they think life isn't good. You think the country is going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
Log off, turn it off, walk down the street, say hello to people.
Exactly.
Life is good, right?
Life is good. Life is good. That's
How
why.
do you remind yourself of that every day? Because
You
I
know
think
what?
that's something people struggle with, man. Coach them.
It's you know what? I would be lying if I would say that every day I say I wake up and life is good. No, you know what? I have my bad days too.
Sure. Some days the life is kind of like a dog. Some days that dog's going to crap on your lawn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what you need to do is say, okay, you know what? This day sucked. Let's get it over with and let's move on.
Exactly.
It's not going to be forever. And there are some people who have tough weeks and tough months. But you know the way I saw it, just going a step back,
Yeah.
is when I was driving home one day from work, there was traffic. And the
In New York,
traffic,
really? In New York metro area? I
yeah.
find that so hard to believe.
And
Especially going north in the evenings
yes,
out of the
yes,
city.
yes. So, and finally, I'm like, I'm so pissed that I'm in this traffic, and
Yep.
I get past a certain spot, and it's a funeral procession,
Yeah.
and it's a car, the hearse, and one other car. And I sat there and I said, one, I felt like crap that I was pissed off, and it's a funeral. And then I said, wow, there's only one car behind this guy.
Yeah.
And I said, how many cars are going to be behind my hearse when I die?
Mhm.
Am I affecting people? Are people going to care that Eric Reyes died? And I said, you know what? I want, when I pass away, I want a long line. I want,
Gridlock, baby.
that's it. I want a
Yep.
mile. I don't want just my family members there. I want to affect
That,
enough people. And that's kind of like
that's
in
an
my
eye opener, man. That's powerful.
is. And from that day, I was like, you know what? Things could be worse.
Yeah. I love that. I want to end right on that because I couldn't possibly add anything to that. I mean, like I said, tuxedo t-shirt, and you give me life is good and a 1-car funeral procession. That's powerful, man. So how do people get in touch with you? I know the answer. I want them to hear it from you. How do they sign up for your podcast? And I'm telling you right now, folks, you should sign up and subscribe to Eric's podcast. It's great. Like if you enjoyed these nuggets of wisdom on this episode, you're going to freaking love his podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's the Hey Coach podcast. You can get it anywhere that you get your podcast. My website is heycoachreyes.com. I have all the podcasts, all the past podcasts on there.
And that's Reyes.
Yes, correct. Reyes. And if you want to,
I'll put it in the show notes, by the way.
Yep. And if you want to email me, it's eric@heycoachreyes.com.
Spell Eric. It's with a C.
Eric with a C.
Okay.
I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. On Instagram and Twitter, I'm Reys 6103, which used to be my badge, trading.
Awesome.
And what you're going to see there is opposite of what you see everywhere else. They're only great quotes and inspirational stuff, because that's all I want people to see from me.
Absolutely. There's enough toxicity in the world. They need someone to be a light. And I love that about you. Love that about you.
Thank you.
So go check out heycoachreyes.com. That's Reyes, like Hey Coach R, and then the word eyes.com.
Nice. I like that.
If you don't spell so good.
Right. Right.
And I say that because you know what? The average reading level in the US, Eric, is 6th grade. You know what that means? Half the people are lower than that. I don't think any of them are my listeners, but I put that out there. So go to heycoachreyes.com and sign up for his podcast. You're going to love it.
Oh, Coach. And Coach, thank you for letting me be on your podcast. This is
my pleasure
podcast. It's an honor to be on.
We're going to do it again. This is fun.
I love to. And get the CUCO.
Chin up, chest out,
baby. Chin up, chest out. Got to get it. Got to get your chin up, chest out.
Good reminder. It's promo code podcast for the first 5 people that use it.
Hold on.
And that's chinupchestout.com. And that's the episode. Eric, take us out of here. Say goodbye to everyone.
Take care. Once again, thanks, Coach Bru.
My pleasure. We'll catch you folks next episode of the Coach Bru podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, rate, review, spew hate, critique me, roast me. You can leave a message on the podcast app if you want to, but no heavy breathing. We've had enough of that. Like, leave a real message, people. Catch you next time.